My child, before this day comes to an end, I need your answer. Do not scroll past this moment. Do not convince yourself that you can come back later. Do not tell yourself that tomorrow will be a better time to listen. There is something I have been placing gently before your heart, and today, before the sun sets on this day, I am asking you to stop long enough to hear my voice. This is not an interruption by accident. It is not a coincidence that you are here now. Long before you pressed play, I knew this moment would come. I knew where your thoughts would be. I knew the questions you have been carrying. I knew the weariness hidden behind your smile. And still, I chose this moment to reach for you. Please stay with me, not because I want to demand something from you, but because I want to give you something that your heart has been searching for. I know how easy it is to keep moving. I know how many responsibilities are waiting for you. I know there are messages to answer, tasks to finish, worries that keep circling in your mind. Life has trained you to rush from one moment to the next without ever allowing your soul to become still. But today is different. Today carries a weight that you cannot yet see. There are moments in life that quietly shape the future without announcing themselves. They do not arrive with loud signs or dramatic miracles. They come as gentle invitations, simple choices, small moments where the direction of a life begins to change. This is one of those moments. I am not asking you to solve every problem before this day ends. I am not asking you to understand every mystery. I am not asking you to become perfect overnight. I am asking you for one honest answer, one willing heart, one decision to stop running long enough to let me speak. Perhaps you have spent months asking me for direction. Perhaps you have prayed for clarity, for peace, for healing, or for a sign that I have not forgotten you. My child, what if this moment is part of the answer you have been waiting for? Do not dismiss it because it seems ordinary. Many of my greatest works begin quietly. Before mountains move, hearts move. Before doors open, trust begins. Before circumstances change, someone chooses to believe me again. Today, that someone can be you. Do not let fear answer for you. Do not let disappointment speak louder than hope. Do not allow yesterday's pain to make today's decision. I know you have been hurt. I know you have grown tired of waiting. I know there are parts of your heart that wonder whether anything can truly change. That is why I am speaking to you now. Before this day ends, I am not asking for your perfection. I am asking for your answer. Stay with me until the end of this message, because what you choose today may quietly become the beginning of everything you have been praying to see tomorrow. My beloved child, if you could see your life through my eyes, you would understand that this moment did not begin when you pressed play on this message. It began long before today, long before this week, long before the questions that now fill your heart. I have been preparing you for this conversation in ways you never recognized. You thought certain seasons were only filled with disappointment. You believed some doors closed simply because life was unfair. You wondered why plans dissolved, why relationships changed, why opportunities slipped away just when they seemed within reach. There were nights when you asked, "Lord, what are you doing?" And all you heard was silence. But my child, silence did not mean I was absent. While you were searching for immediate answers, I was shaping a heart that could receive lasting truth. There are lessons that cannot be taught through comfort alone. There are places within the soul that only grow stronger through waiting. Every season that felt delayed was quietly preparing you to recognize my voice more clearly when this moment finally arrived. You've often measured your life by visible progress. You looked for evidence in open doors, answered prayers, changing circumstances, or sudden breakthroughs. But I have always cared first about something deeper. I have been preparing your heart before preparing your circumstances. Because if I changed your surroundings without changing your heart, you would carry the same fears into every new blessing. If I opened every door before healing your thoughts, you would still hesitate to walk through them. If I answered every prayer instantly, you might celebrate the gift, but never discover the giver. So I began where transformation always begins within you. Do you remember those moments when something inside you quietly shifted, even though nothing around you seemed different? When you became more compassionate after your own pain, When you learned patience because waiting was your only choice? When disappointment taught you to value what truly lasts instead of what quickly fades? You thought you were simply surviving. I was preparing. I was teaching your heart to see beyond appearances. I was loosening your grip on things that could never truly satisfy you. I was gently leading you away from the illusion that your security depended only on what you could control. Even the prayers that seemed unanswered were never wasted. Every tear you cried became part of the soil where deeper faith could grow. Every moment of uncertainty stretched your capacity to trust beyond what your eyes could see. Every delay carried hidden work that could not be rushed. Nothing about your journey has been meaningless. Nothing has escaped my attention. I saw every quiet battle you never explained to anyone else. I saw the strength it took just to keep moving when your heart felt exhausted. I saw the mornings you smiled while carrying burdens no one else noticed. I was present in every one of those moments, not as a distant observer, but as the one carefully weaving each experience into something that would one day make sense. You have asked me many times, why did it have to happen this way? The answer was never because I wanted to see you suffer. It was because I was preparing someone stronger than the person you used to be. Not stronger through hardness, but through trust. Not stronger through pride, but through humility. Not stronger because you stopped needing me, but because you finally began to understand that life was never meant to be carried by your strength alone. And now, my child, you are standing in a moment you could not have understood months ago. The very experiences that once confused you have quietly prepared your heart to hear what I am about to say next. This is why I asked you not to scroll away. This is why I called you before this day ends. What comes next is not the beginning of my work in your life. It is the moment when you begin to recognize the work I have been doing all along. My child, there is something I need you to see with honesty, not with fear. The decision you keep postponing has been quietly shaping your life for far longer than you realize. I know you have not refused me completely. That is not what has happened. You have simply kept saying, later. Later, when life feels less overwhelming. Later, when you have more confidence. Later, when the pain is not so fresh. Later, when you are certain you heard me correctly. I understand why you have said those words. They did not come from rebellion. They came from exhaustion. They came from uncertainty. They came from a heart that was afraid of making the wrong choice. But my child, there is something you must understand. Postponement has a cost, not because I am punishing you for waiting, but because every day you delay, something within you begins to adapt to waiting instead of walking. The heart learns from what it repeatedly practices. If it practices trust, trust grows stronger. If it practices hesitation, hesitation begins to feel normal. Little by little, what once felt temporary becomes a way of living. You begin telling yourself there will always be another opportunity, another sign, another message, another season when following me will feel easier. Yet tomorrow has a way of becoming next month. Next month quietly becomes another year. Before you realize it, the decision you intended to make someday has become the decision that never gets made at all. That is not the future I desire for you. Delay often disguises itself as wisdom. It whispers, wait until everything makes sense. But faith has never grown from having every answer. Faith grows when you trust me enough to take the next step, even while some questions remain unanswered. You have spent so much energy trying to predict every outcome that you have forgotten something important. You do not have to see the entire road to begin walking with me. I already see where it leads. I know what waits around every corner. I know which doors will open and which ones must remain closed. You only need enough light for the next faithful step. My child, I have watched you carry decisions that have become heavier simply because they remained undecided. You have replayed the same conversations in your mind. You have returned to the same fears. You have stood at the same crossroads, hoping certainty would arrive before obedience. But certainty is not what opens the door. Trust does. Every time fear convinced you to postpone what I had placed before you, fear quietly became the loudest voice in your life. It began making choices that belonged to you. It chose comfort over growth. It chose familiarity over freedom. It chose safety over surrender. And although those choices felt easier in the moment, they left your heart carrying a weight it was never meant to bear. I do not say this to fill you with regret. Regret looks backward. I am inviting you to look forward, because what has been delayed does not have to remain delayed. Today is still filled with possibility. The decision before you is not about becoming perfect overnight. It is not about having unshakable confidence or flawless faith. It is about choosing whom you will trust. Will you continue allowing fear to decide the direction of your life, or will you place your hand in mine, even if your steps feel small? My beloved child, I have never asked you to carry tomorrow before living today. I am only asking you to stop postponing what your heart already knows. Do not wait until you feel completely ready. Readiness often comes after obedience, not before it. Before this day comes to an end, let your answer be stronger than your hesitation. Let trust speak louder than delay. And let this be the day you stop standing at the doorway and finally take the first step with me. My beloved child, one of the greatest burdens you have placed upon yourself is the belief that you must become stronger before you come closer to me. Somewhere along the way, you began to believe that you needed perfect faith before you could take the next step. You told yourself that you should wait until every doubt disappeared, until every fear was quiet, until your heart felt completely confident. Only then, you thought, would you finally be ready to answer my call. But that has never been the way I have worked. If perfect faith were required, no one would ever begin. Think about the people throughout Scripture whom I called. They did not come to me because they had every answer. They came with questions. They came with weaknesses. They came carrying fears they could barely put into words. Yet I did not reject them because of what they lacked. I welcomed them because they were willing to trust me one step at a time. That is all I have ever asked of my children. Not perfection, not flawless confidence, not a heart that never trembles, only a heart that is willing to keep turning toward me. My child, I have seen every quiet battle inside you. I know the thoughts you rarely speak aloud. What if I fail again? What if I misunderstand God's voice? What if I take a step and everything falls apart? Those questions do not surprise me. They do not offend me. They simply remind me that you are human, and that is exactly why you need me. Faith is not the absence of uncertainty. Faith is choosing to trust me, even while uncertainty still whispers. Courage is not the disappearance of fear. Courage is deciding that my promises are greater than your fears. Do not confuse confidence with faith. Confidence often depends on what you can see. Faith depends on who is walking beside you. You keep looking at the size of your faith, while I keep looking at the direction of your heart. A small seed placed into my hands can grow into something that changes generations. A single prayer whispered through tears can move heaven more deeply than words spoken with perfect confidence but an empty heart. I have never measured you by how loudly you believed. I measure you by whether you continue coming back to me. There have been days when your prayers were full of hope. There have also been days when all you could manage was, Lord, help me. Do you know something beautiful? I heard both with the same love. I was just as close during your weakest prayer as I was during your strongest worship. My presence has never depended upon the strength of your emotions. It has always depended upon my faithfulness. So stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop believing that you must become someone else before you can walk with me. You do not need a perfect heart. You need an honest one. You do not need complete certainty. You need willingness. You do not need to understand every chapter that lies ahead. You only need enough trust to place today's step into my hands. My beloved child, if you will simply say, Lord, I do not have all the answers, but I choose to follow you anyway, you have already taken a greater step than you realize. Because I am not asking you to carry tomorrow, I am asking you to trust me today. Take this next step with me not because your faith is perfect, but because my love for you has always been. And as you keep walking, you will discover that it was never perfect faith that carried you forward. It was my faithful hand holding yours every step of the way. My beloved child, I want to reveal something that has been happening quietly within your heart. It may surprise you. The greatest decisions shaping your life have not always been made by you. Too often, they have been made by fear. Fear has been speaking before you could answer. Fear has been choosing before faith had the opportunity to respond. Fear has been writing stories that I never intended for your life. I know you never invited it to take that place. You did not wake up one morning and decide to let fear lead you. It happened gradually, almost unnoticed. A disappointment here, a broken promise there, a prayer that seemed unanswered, a door that closed without explanation. Little by little, fear learned your voice, until it began speaking as though it were your own thoughts. You started believing that its warnings were wisdom. Its hesitation felt like maturity. Its caution appeared responsible. But my child, fear often disguises itself as wisdom while quietly stealing the freedom I created you to live in. Fear says, "Do not try again." I say, "I am making all things new." Fear says, "Protect your heart by trusting no one." I say, "Let me heal your heart so you can love again." Fear says, "Stay where it is familiar." I say, "Come where I am leading you." Can you see the difference? Fear always points backward. I always call you forward. There were moments when I placed a gentle invitation before you, an opportunity to forgive, a chance to begin again, a quiet prompting to release what had become too heavy. Yet before you could answer, fear interrupted. What if you get hurt again? What if people disappoint you? What if you fail? Those questions felt convincing because they were connected to real memories. Fear has a way of borrowing yesterday's pain to control today's choices. But I did not create you to live as a prisoner of what has already happened. Your past may explain your fears, but it does not have to determine your future. Every time fear became your counselor, hope grew quieter. Every time fear made the decision, peace had to wait outside the door. Every time fear chose your direction, you walked farther from the freedom that was waiting just one step beyond your hesitation. This is why I have brought you to this moment, not to expose your weakness, but to expose the voice that has been leading you. Ask yourself honestly, who has been making your decisions lately? Has love been leading you? Has trust been guiding you? Or has every choice been filtered through the question, what if everything goes wrong? My beloved child, fear promises protection, but it often produces captivity. It tells you that staying still is safer than moving forward. Yet the prison it builds has invisible walls. From the outside, everything appears normal. You continue working, smiling, and carrying on with daily life. But inside, your dreams become smaller. Your prayers become quieter. Your expectations shrink until you begin calling survival a full life. That was never my desire for you. I did not create you merely to avoid pain. I created you to walk in purpose. I created you to know peace that is stronger than uncertainty. I created you to discover that my presence is greater than every fear standing in front of you. Listen carefully, my child. I am not asking you to pretend fear no longer exists. Even the strongest hearts feel afraid sometimes. I am asking you to stop giving fear the authority to decide where your life will go. Let fear become a feeling, not your leader. Let uncertainty become a circumstance, not your master. Today, before this day comes to an end, I invite you to take back the decisions that fear has been making for you. Place them into my hands instead, for when you allow me to lead, you will discover that courage is not found in having no fear at all. Courage is found in trusting that my hand is stronger than anything your heart has been afraid to face. My beloved friend, if you feel that God has been speaking directly to your heart through this message, don't let this moment pass without responding. Take a simple step of faith right now. In the comments, write, "Today, I choose to trust you, Lord." Don't write it because I asked you to. Write it as a personal declaration before God. Sometimes one honest sentence spoken in faith becomes the beginning of a transformed heart. If this message has encouraged you, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. By doing so, you help these messages of hope, healing, and God's love reach someone else who may be praying for an answer today without even realizing it. Now, don't leave yet, because in the next part, God is about to reveal how one simple act of obedience can quietly change the direction of an entire season of your life. Stay with Him, because what comes next may be exactly the encouragement your heart has been waiting to hear. My beloved child, never underestimate what I can do through one simple act of obedience. The world often celebrates dramatic moments. It teaches you to believe that change only comes through grand achievements, extraordinary strength, or perfect circumstances. But my kingdom has always worked differently. The greatest transformations often begin with one quiet decision, one honest yes, one faithful step, one moment of surrender. Long before the world sees the harvest, I see the seed. You have been asking me to change your circumstances, yet today I want to begin by changing your direction, because direction determines destination far more than speed ever will. A single step toward me is never small. It may seem insignificant to your eyes, but heaven understands the power hidden inside obedience. Think of Noah. He did not build the ark in a single day. Everything began with one decision to believe my voice before anyone else understood. Every piece of wood he lifted was another declaration that my word was more trustworthy than the opinions surrounding him. Think of Abraham. His journey did not begin when he reached the land I promised. It began the day he chose to leave the familiar behind. One decision opened the path for generations yet unborn. Think of Peter. His life did not change because he understood everything about the future. It changed when he stepped out of the boat while the waves were still rising around him. The miracle did not begin after certainty arrived. It began the moment obedience became greater than fear. My child, these stories are not preserved simply for history. They are invitations. The same God who called them is speaking to you today. Perhaps I am not asking you to build an ark or leave your homeland. Perhaps your next step looks much quieter. It may be choosing forgiveness instead of resentment. It may be releasing a burden you have carried for years. It may be returning to prayer after believing your words no longer mattered. It may be trusting me with a decision you have delayed for far too long. Do not compare your assignment to someone else's. Obedience is never measured by its size. It is measured by the willingness of the heart. You often wonder whether your small response can truly matter. Let me remind you of something beautiful. A seed does not resemble a forest. A sunrise begins with the smallest hint of light. A river begins with a single spring hidden beneath the ground. In the same way, the season you have been praying for may begin with one decision that seems almost too simple to matter. Do not despise what appears small. I have always delighted in using small beginnings to reveal my great faithfulness. What seems like one quiet act of obedience today may become the testimony you will one day share with tears of gratitude. Looking back, you will realize that your breakthrough did not begin with a miracle that fell from the sky. It began the day you finally trusted me enough to take the first step. My beloved child, I am not asking you to carry the entire journey today. I am asking you to take the next faithful step. Leave tomorrow in my hands. Leave the unanswered questions with me. Leave the outcomes to my wisdom. Simply choose obedience over hesitation. Because one decision made in trust can quietly change an entire season, and before you even realize it, you will look back and discover that the life you once prayed for began the moment you said, "Yes, Lord, I will follow where you lead." My beloved child, there is something your fears can never understand. While you are worrying about tomorrow, I am already there. Before you wake to face the challenges that trouble your thoughts tonight, I have already seen them. Before your heart imagines every possible outcome, I already know which path leads to life. Before uncertainty reaches your door, my presence is already waiting for you. You are not walking toward an unknown future alone. You are walking toward a future where I am already present. That changes everything. I know there are moments when tomorrow feels overwhelming. Your mind begins to create stories that have not happened. You imagine conversations that may never take place. You anticipate disappointments that have not yet arrived. You prepare yourself for losses that exist only in your imagination. Fear has a way of convincing you that the future is already decided. But fear does not know what I know. It cannot see beyond the next shadow. I see beyond every horizon. I see the doors you have not yet reached. I see the people I have already prepared to encourage you. I see the strength that will rise within you when the moment requires it. I see prayers that are already moving toward their answer, even though you cannot yet recognize the signs. You look at tomorrow and ask, what if everything goes wrong? I look at tomorrow and say, I will be there. Do you remember how many times you believed you would never survive a difficult season? You thought the pain would never end. You believed the burden would crush you. You wondered if joy would ever return. Yet here you are. You are still standing. Not because you carried yourself this far, but because my hand remained beneath you even when you could not feel it. The same faithfulness that carried you through yesterday will carry you into tomorrow. My character does not change with the seasons of your life. When the road becomes uncertain, I remain your certainty. When people change, I remain constant. When opportunities disappear, I remain your provider. When your strength begins to fade, mine does not. That is why I keep asking you to trust me instead of your fears. Fear only knows your history. I know your destiny. Fear remembers every wound. I remember every promise I have spoken over your life. Fear focuses on what could be lost. I focus on what can still be restored. My child, there are blessings waiting for you that cannot be reached while you continue looking backward. There is peace that can only be experienced by those who are willing to walk forward with me, even when every answer has not yet been revealed. You do not have to understand every detail of the journey. You only need to know the one who walks before you. I have never asked you to carry the future upon your shoulders. That responsibility has always belonged to me. Lay it down. Lay down the endless questions. Lay down the exhausting need to control every outcome. Lay down the fear that tells you everything depends on your own strength. It does not. It never has. Before you take your next step, remember this truth and let it settle deep within your heart. I am not following behind you, hoping everything works out. I am already standing in the tomorrow you fear. I have already prepared grace for the battles you have not yet faced, peace for the nights you have not yet lived, wisdom for the decisions you have not yet made, and strength for the moments when you think you have none left. So walk forward, my beloved child, not because the future is easy, but because wherever your future leads, you will never arrive there before my love does. My beloved child, there is something your fears can never understand. While you are worrying about tomorrow, I am already there. Before you wake to face the challenges that trouble your thoughts tonight, I have already seen them. Before your heart imagines every possible outcome, I already know which path leads to life. Before uncertainty reaches your door, my presence is already waiting for you. You are not walking toward an unknown future alone. You are walking toward a future where I am already present. That changes everything. I know there are moments when tomorrow feels overwhelming. Your mind begins to create stories that have not happened. You imagine conversations that may never take place. You anticipate disappointments that have not yet arrived. You prepare yourself for losses that exist only in your imagination. Fear has a way of convincing you that the future is already decided. But fear does not know what I know. It cannot see beyond the next shadow. I see beyond every horizon. I see the doors you have not yet reached. I see the people I have already prepared to encourage you. I see the strength that will rise within you when the moment requires it. I see prayers that are already moving toward their answer, even though you cannot yet recognize the signs. You look at tomorrow and ask, what if everything goes wrong? I look at tomorrow and say, I will be there. Do you remember how many times you believed you would never survive a difficult season? You thought the pain would never end. You believed the burden would crush you. You wondered if joy would ever return. Yet here you are. You are still standing. Not because you carried yourself this far, but because my hand remained beneath you even when you could not feel it. The same faithfulness that carried you through yesterday will carry you into tomorrow. My character does not change with the seasons of your life. When the road becomes uncertain, I remain your certainty. When people change, I remain constant. When opportunities disappear, I remain your provider. When your strength begins to fade, mine does not. That is why I keep asking you to trust me instead of your fears. Fear only knows your history. I know your destiny. Fear remembers every wound. I remember every promise I have spoken over your life. Fear focuses on what could be lost. I focus on what can still be restored. My child, there are blessings waiting for you that cannot be reached while you continue looking backward. There is peace that can only be experienced by those who are willing to walk forward with me, even when every answer has not yet been revealed. You do not have to understand every detail of the journey. You only need to know the one who walks before you. I have never asked you to carry the future upon your shoulders. That responsibility has always belonged to me. Lay it down. Lay down the endless questions. Lay down the exhausting need to control every outcome. Lay down the fear that tells you everything depends on your own strength. It does not. It never has. Before you take your next step, remember this truth and let it settle deep within your heart. I am not following behind you, hoping everything works out. I am already standing in the tomorrow you fear. I have already prepared grace for the battles you have not yet faced, peace for the nights you have not yet lived, wisdom for the decisions you have not yet made, and strength for the moments when you think you have none left. So walk forward, my beloved child, not because the future is easy, but because wherever your future leads, you will never arrive there before. My love does. My beloved child, perhaps the greatest fear hidden within your heart is not the fear of failure. It is the fear of facing the journey alone. You have carried responsibilities that no one else seemed to notice. You have smiled when your soul felt weary. You have learned how to appear strong because you believed there was no other choice. Over time, you became so accustomed to carrying everything by yourself that dependence began to feel like weakness. But that was never my design for your life. I did not create you to walk this path alone. From the very beginning, my desire has always been to walk beside you not as a distant observer, but as your faithful shepherd, your constant companion, and your everlasting Father. When I ask you to say yes to me, I am not asking you to carry a heavier burden. I am inviting you to lay one down. Too often, you imagine obedience as adding more weight to your shoulders. The truth is just the opposite. Obedience is where unnecessary burdens begin to fall away. When you place your hand in mine, you no longer have to carry every unanswered question by yourself. You no longer have to fight every battle with your own strength. You no longer have to convince yourself that everything depends on your ability to hold life together. My child, when you say yes to me, you are not saying yes to uncertainty. You are saying yes to my presence within every uncertain moment. There is a difference. I may not reveal every detail of tomorrow, but I will never leave you to face tomorrow by yourself. When the road becomes steep, I will strengthen you. When confusion surrounds you, I will guide you. When disappointment visits your heart, I will comfort you. When fear whispers that you cannot continue, I will remind you that my strength is made perfect in your weakness. You have spent enough years believing that survival was the highest goal. I am calling you into something greater. I am calling you into a life where peace is stronger than panic, where hope speaks louder than fear, and where my promises become more believable than your doubts. Do not be afraid to answer me today. Your yes does not need to be loud. It does not need to be impressive. Sometimes the most powerful act of faith is a quiet whisper that simply says, Lord, I trust you. Heaven hears that whisper, and I receive it with joy. So before this day comes to an end, let your heart rest in this promise. The moment you say yes to me, you will never take another step by yourself. I will go before you. I will walk beside you. I will remain behind you. And through every season, every valley, every mountain, and every unanswered question, my faithful love will be the steady hand that leads you safely home. My beloved child, you have heard my heart, not because I wanted to pressure you, but because I wanted you to understand how deeply you are loved. This moment is not about fear. It is not about guilt. It is not about earning my acceptance. You have always been loved. Today is simply about choosing how you will respond to that love. Every path in life is shaped by small decisions that seem ordinary at the time. Few people recognize the moments that quietly change everything until they look back years later. I believe this is one of those moments for you. You can leave this message exactly as you came. You can tell yourself that another day will be better. You can postpone one more time. Or you can choose differently. You can choose to trust instead of delaying. You can choose hope instead of fear. You can choose surrender instead of trying to carry every burden alone. Remember, I have never asked you to know everything. I have only asked you to know me. I have never required perfect faith. I have only invited willing hearts. Today, I am placing an open door before you. I will not force you to walk through it. Love never forces. Love invites. And so, I invite you one final time before this day comes to an end. Take my hand. Let go of the weight you were never meant to carry. Stop allowing yesterday's disappointments to make today's decisions. Lift your eyes toward me. This is your moment to choose. Choose trust, choose obedience, choose peace, choose hope, and as you do, you will discover that the greatest change did not begin when your circumstances changed. It began the moment your heart answered, "Yes, Lord, I will walk with you." Heavenly Father, thank you for meeting me in this moment. Thank you for loving me with a love that has never given up on me, even when I was afraid, distracted, or uncertain. Today I come before you with an honest heart. I may not have every answer, but I choose to place my trust in you. Lord, forgive me for the times I allowed fear to speak louder than faith and hesitation to become stronger than obedience. Help me release every burden that was never mine to carry. Replace my anxiety with your peace, my confusion with your wisdom, and my weakness with your strength. Teach me to recognize your voice above every other voice that competes for my attention. Give me the courage to take the next step, even when I cannot see the whole path before me. Remind me each day that I never walk alone because your presence goes before me, walks beside me, and remains faithful behind me. I surrender this day, my future, and my heart into your loving hands. Lead me according to your perfect will, and let my life bring honor to your name. In Jesus' mighty name, I pray. Amen. Before you leave, I encourage you to make this simple declaration of faith. In the comments below, write, "Today, I choose to trust you, Lord." Don't think of it as just another comment. Let it be your personal prayer, your public declaration that fear will no longer make your decisions and that you are choosing to place your future into God's hands. If this message has spoken to your heart, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who may be waiting for the same encouragement you received today. You never know how God might use one act of kindness to reach a heart that is ready to hear his voice. And remember this as you go into the rest of your day. God is already waiting in the tomorrow you are worried about. Walk forward in faith. Walk forward in peace. Walk forward knowing that the one who called you will never leave you, never forsake you, and will faithfully finish the good work he has begun in your life. God bless you.